At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI slop. In the end, what's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it this way. My name's I Am Duck. Let's begin. There are well-established guidelines for civilized galactic conquest, most of them authored by the Thelrixi hegemony. Their tomes contain regulations for planetary challenges, honor codes for single combat, and entire appendices on the proper way to accept a world's surrender. None of these voluminous, self-important texts mention what to do when a divinely appointed imperator gets launched into the bleachers by 2,000 pounds of deadly steak. But that's jumping the gun. The story, like any worth telling, ignites with a grand entrance and a profound misunderstanding. No one had told the Thelrixi about humans until it was too late. They'd already decided to invade. The object that descended from the sky was an affront of good taste. A blade of midnight dark metal. It was a collage of acute, intersecting planes and menacing glows, an aesthetic that suggested its designer had a severe allergy to joy. It slid through the thick, humid Texas air with an arrogant, silent hum that felt more offensive than a roar, and settled in the exact center of the San Jacinto County Rodeo Arena, a vortex of dust, dirt, and half-eaten funnel cake wrappers swirled up around it, a gritty welcome wagon for the end of the world. For a drawn-out moment, the rodeo froze. The country band on the main stage faltered mid-twang. The deep fryer operators paused, baskets of half-cooked corn dogs hovering over boiling oil. Even the cicadas seemed to hold their breath, their innocent buzzing choked into a stunned quiet that left only the drip of condensation from a massive tub of lemonade. Then a ramp hissed open, bathing the dusty arena in a sterile, condescending light. Down this ramp strode Imperator Tecton, conqueror of 1,000 suns, subjugator of the Grolnokian hives, and a being whose jawline, it was rumored, could hew granite. He stood 8 feet of armored perfection, trailed by an honor guard of warriors with scowls that looked too symmetrical for natural evolution. Tecton marched to the center of the arena, his boots making no sound on the churned-up earth. He slammed the butt of a ceremonial energy spear into the ground. A deep, resonant thump echoed through the sudden quiet, a sound that had once heralded the fall of empires. His voice, amplified by some unseen technology, boomed across the fairgrounds, each word sculpted from self-importance. People of this world, I am Imperator Tecton of the Thelrixi hegemony. By the ancient laws that bind the stars, I claim this sphere for our eternal glory. We have observed your rituals, this gathering of your strongest. We have seen your champions test their mettle. The time for games is over. Present your single greatest warrior to face me in the rite of conquest. His victory earns your freedom. His defeat seals your fate. The crowd stared. They looked from the giant polished aliens to each other, then back to the aliens. San Jacinto County was generally unprepared for this level of weird. From his perch on a fence overlooking the bullpens, Jabber Jab Stone calmly took a final swig of his Lone Star beer. He was a man carved from sun-baked leather and quiet disapproval, his face a roadmap of long days and short tempers. The alien invasion thus far presented a significant inconvenience. He crushed the can in one hand with a thoughtful crunch and spat a stream of tobacco juice that landed just shy of his worn-out boot. "Well," he muttered to one in particular, "that's a new kind of stupid." Dale, the rodeo announcer, a man whose professional life consisted of manufacturing excitement out of thin air, scrambled down from his booth. sweat soaked through his starched western shirt, his bolo tie askew. "Jab! Jab, you hear that, fella? Champion? What in the blue blazes is he talking about? We ain't got no champion. We got a guy who can eat 50 hot dogs, and a girl who won the pie baking contest 3 years running." Jab didn't turn around. He jerked a calloused thumb toward the reinforced steel pens behind them. A symphony of frustrated snorts and the percussive thud of hoof against metal rattled the air. "Give him a champion, Dale." A wicked, world-changing grin spread across Dale's face. He understood. Oh, he understood perfectly. The event had ceased to be an alien invasion. It had become a show. And the show must go on. He scurried back to his booth, grabbed the microphone with the trembling hands of a man who just found his calling, and flipped the switch. His voice, now filled with a booming God-given showmanship he hadn't used since the '08 bull riding finals, roared through the PA system and drowned out the alien's hum. "Folks, it seems our esteemed visitors are looking for a fight. Well, it's their lucky day, because here in San Jacinto County, we believe in hospitality. And it would be mighty rude of us not to introduce them to one of our biggest local celebrities. He's a 10-time buckle winner, the baddest beast east of the Pecos, and the angriest 2,000 pounds of prime beef you've ever laid eyes on. Please give a warm San Jacinto welcome to the champion of Earth, Diablo!" Tecton watched, a smirk of amusement on his perfect lips. A beast. These locals offered a dumb animal as their champion. The gesture was pathetic. It was insulting. It was getting bigger. The gate to chute number 4 burst open with a sound of tortured steel. A mobile mountain of muscle and fury emerged, a bull so black it seemed to drink the afternoon light. Its horns looked stolen from a demon's trophy room and sharpened on the bones of its enemies. Diablo had a very bad day. He'd been prodded, poked, confined, and generally irritated. And now some shiny jackass in a ridiculous helmet stood in the middle of his arena. The bull let out a snort that was less a sound and more a seismic event, pawed the dirt once, and charged. The problem with Thalrixi intelligence, a recurring theme over the next several hours, was its complete lack of imagination. Their analysts saw humans riding bulls and concluded it was a dominance ritual, a warrior taming a powerful beast. They failed to grasp the finer point. For 8 terrifying seconds, the bull was very much in charge. Tecton raised his personal energy shield, a field of azure light designed to repel the honorable blow of a plasma axe. The shield's designers, however, failed to account for a ton of enraged bovine moving at 40 miles per hour. Diablo hit the shield with the force of a runaway freight train. The azure field flared to a brilliant, blinding white, held for a fraction of a second, with a shriek of protesting energy, and then shattered. The bull's left horn, a marvel of natural engineering, did not slow. It connected with Tecton's ceremonial chestplate, a priceless artifact forged in the heart of a dying star. The priceless artifact crumpled with the sound of a tin can run over by a semi-truck. 2 of the Imperator's ribs cracked. The air left his lungs in a surprised whoosh. Then the great Imperator, Tecton, conqueror of 1,000 suns, launched head over heels into the third row of the cheap seats, landing in a heap amidst a shower of popcorn and spilled sodas. The entire rodeo erupted in the loudest, most cathartic, most genuinely joyful cheer of the day. The invasion had officially begun, and it was already behind on points. Humiliation is a powerful catalyst. For Tecton, staggering to his feet with a mouthful of dirt and a shattered ego, it consumed him. His honor, the bedrock of his entire existence, lay defiled by livestock. He ripped his dental helmet off, his face a canvas of purple-skinned fury, and screamed a single guttural word that needed no translation. "Subdue them!" His honor guard, paragons of ritual combat, moved. They advanced from the ship in a flawless interlocking wedge, their energy blades humming to life with a sound like agitated hornets. They were a vision of disciplined terror, a wall of death that had broken the will of countless worlds. They expected fear, they expected awe, they expected the cowering submission of a lesser species. They got Hank. Hank was a grizzled rancher in denim overalls who had seen 2 droughts, 3 floods, and the price of feed rise every year for the last 30. He possessed a low tolerance for nonsense, and an 8-foot alien with a glow stick advancing on his family qualified. He responded with the accumulated wisdom of his people. He raised the 12-gauge pump-action shotgun that never strayed more than 5 feet away from his person. The weapon, a masterpiece of brutal simplicity, was a tool the Thalrixi, with their elegant plasma rifles, had never conceived of in its messy, indiscriminate lethality. The Thalrixi warrior in the lead saw the simple tube level at him. His shield flared, ready to deflect the single focused energy bolt he anticipated. Instead, Hank's shotgun roared, belching a cloud of fire, smoke, and 2 ounces of double-aught buckshot. The alien's shield, calibrated for a single point of impact, suddenly had to calculate the trajectory and kinetic energy of 12 separate lead pellets traveling at nearly 1,200 feet per second. It tried for a millisecond. It flickered erratically, a frantic light show of computational panic. Then it gave up, overloaded and utterly defeated. The cloud of lead punched through the now defunct shield and hit the warrior square in the chest. His body blew clean off his feet and landed in a clatter of useless armor 10 feet behind where he'd stood. A quiet rippled through the advancing Thalrixi line. They stared at their fallen comrade, then at the smoking tube in the old human's hands. The entire combat doctrine centered on the shield. The shield meant life, the shield meant honor. The shield, it turned out, had a strong opinion about birdshot. The perfect Thalrixi wedge wavered in shock and confusion. The first official shot of the invasion had been fired, and the rules of engagement were now whatever the Texans damn well said they were. The air split with the crack of a dozen more shotguns. Alarms blared from the alien ship. A stray bottle rocket, lit by a teenager in the stands, zipped past a Thalrixi's head with a high-pitched whistle. The carefully orchestrated invasion dissolved into a county-wide brawl. While the adults rediscovered the joys of asymmetric warfare, a different kind of resistance formed near the midway. Behind the dizzying lights of the tilt-a-whirl, 16-year-old Billy Joe, Bay G, Callahan, held a council of war. Her posse consisted of a dozen or so farm kids, teenagers whose idea of a good time usually involved seeing how fast a dirt bike could go before it fell apart. BJ sized up the enemy. She'd been running circles around grown-ups on her family's ranch since she was 10. The aliens were big. They were strong, but they moved like parade floats, slow, predictable, and utterly lacking situational awareness. They focused on the big threats in the arena, ignoring the chaos on the periphery. "Okay, listen up," she said, her voice sharp and confident. "They're just big, dumb jocks in shiny armor. They think they're tough, but they don't know the layout. We do. Let's give them a proper welcome." Their campaign of tactical harassment began with a simple lure. A squad of 4 Thalrixi attempting to flank the main brawl were distracted by what appeared to be a lone, terrified human child. The child led them on a chase into the haunted farmhouse, a rickety attraction whose scares were usually limited to a guy in a rubber mask jumping out from behind a plastic skeleton. Today, its horrors were significantly upgraded. The first alien through the door tripped a wire connected to a burlap sack full of angry hornets, unceremoniously scooped into it minutes before. The second was met by a swinging pendulum made from another sack filled with prize-winning horseshoes. The third found himself on the receiving end of 3 paintball guns, reloaded by BJ's crew with a diabolical mixture of ghost pepper hot sauce and industrial-grade epoxy. The highlight, the moment that would enter San Jacinto legend, came from Timmy. Timmy was 12, had a mouthful of braces, and possessed a slingshot arm that was the terror of every squirrel in the county. He watched a Thalrixie Centurion, a decorated officer by the looks of his ornate helmet, stumble out of the farmhouse, blinded by hot sauce and buzzing with furious hornets. Timmy drew back his slingshot, a water balloon stretched out in the leather pouch. This was no ordinary water balloon. This one contained the chili powder BJ had borrowed from the first place winner of the chili cook-off. He let it fly. The balloon sailed through the air in a perfect arc and burst squarely on the Centurion's faceplate, dusting his eyes and respiratory vents with pure capsaicin. The warrior roared, stumbling blindly backward, flailing his arms. His stumble took him directly through the flimsy wood fence of the prize pig pen. There, with a gentle, inquisitive grunt, he sat on by Petunia, a 600-pound sow who had been enjoying a nice nap and did not appreciate the disturbance. The great warrior lay pinned, defeated by a combination of teenage ingenuity and bacon on the hoof. Back near the crippled warship, which now had a distinct bullhorn-shaped dent in its hull, Subjugator Grawl approached his Imperator cautiously. Tecton stared out at the unfolding pandemonium, his face a thunderous mask of disbelief and rage. "Imperator!" Grawl began, his voice a model of respectful deference. He was younger than Tecton, more adaptable. He saw the unfolding disaster for what it was. "Their tactics are unorthodox. They use these kinetic projectile weapons from a distance. They refuse to meet us blade to blade. They employ trickery. Perhaps if we adapted, used our plasma rifles for suppressing fire, established a perimeter." Tecton whirled on him, his eyes burning with furious, wounded pride. "Silence, Subjugator! You speak like a coward. We are Thalrixie. We do not adapt to the gutter tactics of lesser beings. We meet our foes with honor and strength. We break them with our might, face to face. We will not cower behind cover and fling energy like frightened children." He bellowed orders for his warriors to press the attack, to meet the humans head-on, and stormed off. Grawl watched him go, a chilling thought solidifying in his mind. The old imperators, the ones from the sagas, who had carved their empire from a hostile galaxy, had been pragmatic. They would have scoured this dusty, beer-soaked world from orbit after the first insult with the bull. But centuries of easy victories against other honor-bound cultures had bred this new generation of leaders, arrogant, complacent, and blinded by their own dogma. Tecton's pride was an anchor, and it was dragging them all down to hell. Jab saw the fight dissolve into scattered, chaotic brawls. The aliens were dangerous, their individual strength formidable, but they were disorganized, confused by the sheer, multi-front insanity of the human response. It was time to add some structure to the chaos. He found Dale's backup shortwave radio, a dusty relic used to coordinate parking. His slow, calm drawl cut through the static. "All right, boys. Some of you on horseback. They want to see some real wrangling. Let's give 'em a show." A surreal cavalry charge that military historians would one day study, with a mixture of horror and profound admiration, erupted. Cowboys on horseback, men who could rope a fleeing calf from a galloping stallion in a dead run, galloped into the fray. Their lassos spun through the air like living things. An 8-foot-tall alien warrior roared in frustration. A flash of braided rope. The first lasso zipped out, snaring his rifle arm. A second snapped around his ankle. A third looped perfectly around his neck. 3 ropes went taut. The warrior vanished from his feet and was unceremoniously dragged into a pen of angry hogs, who were more than happy to make a new friend. Across the battlefield, a scene replayed, a masterclass in an ancient art form applied to a futuristic problem. Watching the horseback charge from atop a stack of hay bales, Cletus Cleet Williams had a divine spark of inspiration. Grease-stained and perpetually vibrating with a low-level hum of mechanical energy, Cletus viewed the world through the lens of an internal combustion engine. The Thalrix's silent, elegant anti-gravity technology offended his mechanical sensibilities. It was an insult to good, honest, loud, gas-guzzling American engineering. He leapt down from the hay, a wild look in his eye, a grease rag hanging from his back pocket like a knight's favor. He sprinted toward the sprawling dirt parking lot, a sea of pickup trucks gleaming in the afternoon sun. "Y'all want to see something cool?" he bellowed to anyone within earshot. A few minutes and several rolls of high-tensile strapping tape later, the cavalry got a V8 upgrade. A phalanx of monster trucks and soaped-up pickups, their suspensions lifted to frankly irresponsible heights, screamed onto the fairgrounds. They bristled with deer rifles taped to roll cages. Coolers full of beer rattled in their passenger seats. From their speakers, a cacophony of heavy metal and outlaw country blasted at volumes capable of shattering glass. They plowed through alien squads like a bowling ball through pins. Cletus led in his prize Chevy, the Beast, a monstrous creation with tires taller than a man. A wild, ecstatic grin was plastered on his face. He leaned out the window, shaking his fist. "Listen here, you green-skinned sons of bitches. Know me as your slaughterer, your devilishly good-looking executioner. Kneel for your god-dang demise." He screamed as he rammed a Thalrixi warrior clean through a wooden fence and into the side of a porta potty. The F-150 Phalanx arrived. High on their initial success, BJ's crew decided to up the ante. From their perch on the funhouse roof, they spotted another Thalrixi squad cautiously advancing through the now deserted midway. They moved in a tight tactical wedge, clearly having learnt from their comrades' mistakes. BJ grinned. A new lesson was in order. One of her crew, a lanky kid named Skeeter, scrambled down and acted as bait, pretending to be injured near the base of the tilt-a-whirl. The aliens, seeing a chance to capture a prisoner for interrogation, took it. They surrounded him, their weapons leveled, and followed him as he scrambled onto the ride's platform, implying it was some kind of tactical high ground. The moment the last heavy alien boots stepped onto the diamond plate steel, Skeeter dove off the other side. BJ gave the signal. Her friend, a wiry girl named Cass, who had a knack for electronics, slammed a crowbar into the ride's control panel, shorting out the safety regulators. She'd then hotwired the main power, pushing the lever all the way to a setting marked, ominously, max. The ride lurched to life. It didn't just spin. It accelerated with the violent, irregulated fury of a dying star. The 8-foot warriors, whose high-gravity biology made them strong and stable, were suddenly pinned to their seats by G-forces they were physiologically unprepared for. Their world became a spinning, lurching vortex of green-skinned misery. The scene was a kaleidoscope of nausea. An entire elite squad was removed from the fight with lethal motion sickness. One of them pathetically vomited into his own helmet. Amidst the chaos, the Thalrixi grew desperate. They needed intelligence. They needed to understand the tactical genius behind this storm of utter madness. They finally managed to corner an individual they believed must be a key figure in the human command structure. This human was unnaturally agile, evading their plasma shots with effortless cartwheels and acrobatic tumbles. His face, painted in terrifying symmetrical patterns of red and white, was clearly a form of ceremonial war paint. His movements were unpredictable, chaotic, yet effective. He had to be one of the humans' elite trickster warriors, a shaman or jester whose role was to spread confusion and fear. They finally trapped him behind the cotton candy stand. They surrounded him, weapons raised. He just stood there, a strange, fixed smile on his painted face. They dragged Sparky the rodeo clown back to their ship and confiscated his floppy shoes and squeaky red nose. Assuming they were part of a fearsome war gob, they would interrogate him, break him, and learn the secrets of human combat psychology. This proved as fruitful as trying to learn the secrets of fire by hugging a lit stick of dynamite. Inside the ship's makeshift brig, a sterile white room with a single energy field for a door, Sparky was left alone. His captors had bound his hands with what they assumed were inescapable energy cuffs. Sparky looked at the cuffs, then at the small pin holding his oversized flower corsage to his chest. He sighed. This was almost too easy. He slipped his bonds in under a minute. The energy field door was trickier, but it hummed with a predictable frequency. He'd once gotten out of a locked porta-potty at last year's festival using nothing but a paperclip and a half-eaten corndog stick. This was simple. A few moments of fiddling with the control panel using the corsage pin, and the field flickered and died. He crept through the silent metallic corridors of the alien ship. The vessel was eerily quiet. The Thalrixi's arrogance extended to their ship design, all their security focused outward, on honorable ship-to-ship combat. The idea that a single captured local could pose a threat from within was apparently too insulting to even consider. He soon found what he was looking for, a storage locker carelessly left unlocked. Inside were racks of the aliens' plasma grenades. They were sleek, beautifully designed orbs of destructive power. Sparky picked one up, weighing it in his hand, applying the simple universal logic of demolition. He knew he didn't need to understand the advanced technology. He just needed to find the important bits of the ship and introduce them to the important bits of the grenade. He followed the thickest, brightest, humming power conduits he could find, the ones that snaked away from the ship's engine core. With the silent focus of a concert pianist approaching a crescendo, he began placing the grenades. He placed them not randomly, but at major junction points where the conduits split off to power the ship's primary systems. Weapons, shields, life support. He set them all on a time delay, synchronized with a flick of his wrist. He placed the last one when a Thalrixi patrol rounded the corner. A moment of shocked silence passed, then the chase was on. The chase resembled a Benny Hill sketch directed by a pyromaniac. Sparky, with his painted smile and surprising speed, led the guards on a frantic chase through their own ship. He swung from pipes, slid under closing doors, and at one point distracted them by pulling an endless stream of colored handkerchiefs from his sleeve. The chase led him to a small cargo bay. In the corner, leaning against a crate, sat a unicycle. The galaxy is a strange place, and sometimes it provides. Sparky's smile widened. It was fate. He hopped onto the unicycle and pedaled out of the cargo bay just as his first grenade went off. A string of perfectly timed daisy-chained explosions ripped through the ship's internal power grid behind him. Lights flickered and died. Systems screamed alarms and then fell silent. He rode the unicycle down the main ramp, honking a small horn he'd produced from his pocket. A triumphant meep meep echoing across the battlefield as the mighty warship shuddered and went dark. While Spock engaged in his one-man rampage, the broader Texan guerrilla war reached new heights of culinary violence. Up in the grandstands, a group of deer hunters had set up a sniper's nest. Using their high-powered rifles with scopes designed to spot a buck at 500 yards, they methodically picked off Thalrixi officers, easily identifiable by their slightly fancier helmets. Down on the Midway, several of the local ranch wives, pillars of the community, and undisputed masters of potluck warfare, set up a free welcome chili stand. They offered steaming bowls of their 5-alarm ghost pepper-infused chili to any captured or disoriented aliens. The Thelrixi, whose species had never developed a tolerance for capsaicin, found it a biological weapon of horrific efficacy. Their roars of pain could be heard over the gunfire. Not to be outdone, the operators of the funnel cake stand turned their stall into a formidable defense emplacement. When a squad of aliens tried to charge their position, they were met with ladles of boiling oil, a medieval tactic for which they were entirely unprepared. The aliens retreated, smelling faintly of burnt sugar and defeat. Cletus saw the lights on the enemy ship flicker and die. He saw a clown on a unicycle coast to freedom. He saw his chance. The ship was crippled, but it wasn't dead. He would ground it permanently. He scavenged a plasma rifle from a downed alien, popped open its side panel and whistled. The power cell was a work of art, a miniature sun contained in a magnetic bottle. He ripped it out, then pried open the weapon's casing, exposing its inner workings. "Well, I'll be," he muttered, a greasy finger tracing a power conduit. "They bottle the damn sun here, but they're only sipping the juice. Safety regulations. Cowards." He hauled the rifle over to the biggest piece of machinery on the fairgrounds, a massive gleaming red combine harvester. Its bladed maw wide enough to swallow a car. He popped the hood, revealing a V12 diesel engine the size of a smart car. "Time to open the fire hose," he said to himself. With the frantic, focused energy of a surgeon performing a heart transplant, he worked. He bypassed the rifle's internal systems, hooking its main energy conduits directly to the harvester's massive alternator. "Gonna need more juice," he yelled to two of his buddies, who looked on with a mixture of awe and terror. He had them hold the rifle in place on the harvester's roof, aimed at the ship. Then he climbed into the cab. He redlined the engine. The V12 screamed, the entire machine shaking as he channeled the entire electrical output of a high-performance diesel engine directly into the alien weapon. The rifle, designed for the steady, measured output of its own power cell, began to glow cherry red. The resulting plasma bolt was a lance of pure incandescent rage, a thick, unstable torrent of energy that roared through the air. It struck the warship's main landing ramp and didn't just damage it, it melted it. The ramp dissolved into a glowing molten puddle of slag that dripped and cooled, permanently welding the ship to the soil of San Jacinto County. Cletus killed the engine, the sudden silence deafening. He leaned out of the cab, covered in sweat, and grinned. "That's how you get some real horsepower, fellas." Deep in a bunker in Cheyenne Mountain, a 4-star Air Force general named Hankins stared at a flickering satellite feed, his morning coffee completely forgotten. On the screen, a large piece of agricultural equipment fired a plasma beam at an alien vessel. He blinked. He rubbed his eyes. The image remained. What in the goddamn hell am I looking at, Lieutenant?" the general muttered, his voice barely a whisper. The young lieutenant next to him squinted at the high-resolution display, trying to make sense of the chaos. "Sir, we believe that's the annual San Jacinto County Rodeo and Livestock Show in East Texas. We're still trying to confirm the disposition of the non-terrestrial combatants, but, sir, is that a clown on a unicycle juggling what appears to be live grenades?" Before General Hankins could formulate a response that didn't involve questioning his own sanity, the feed crackled, fizzed, and died, a casualty of the escalating electromagnetic chaos. The highest echelons of the U.S. military were left in stunned, bewildered silence, with nothing but a lingering image of a combine harvester of doom. Our unseen narrator chuckles. They'd never get the full story, and it was probably for the best. Some things are too beautiful, too pure in absurdity, to be properly documented in a government report. Tecton watched his ship die. He watched his warriors get roped like cattle, sickened by carnival rides and blown apart by primitive slug throwers. He watched his glorious invasion, the capstone of his career, crumble into a humiliating, incomprehensible circus. His honor was not in tatters. It had been set on fire, stomped into the dirt and fed to hogs. All that remained was pure, absolute, primal rage. He let out a roar that echoed across the fairgrounds, a sound of such inherent fury that it momentarily silenced the battle. He raised his own plasma axe, its blade crackling with deadly energy. "To me," he bellowed. "To me, sons of Thorlax. We end this now. No more tricks, no more cowardice. We will crush these savages beneath our boots. We will restore our honor, or we will die in the attempt. Charge!" He rallied every remaining warrior, a few dozen battered but still formidable soldiers. They formed up around him, a last, desperate wave of polished armor and righteous fury. He would break these savages with a tsunami of pure force. Jab, Cletus, and Sparky, now back in the fray, having swapped his unicycle for a stolen alien speeder bike, saw the Thalrixi forming up for a final push. A straight fight, even now, would be costly. A lot of good people would get hurt. Jab got an idea. The idea was stupid, magnificent, and absolutely perfect. He grabbed the microphone from Dale's booth, which was somehow still working. His slow, calm drawl cut through the battlefield noise, amplified by every speaker on the fairgrounds. "Attention, alien visitors. This is Jabber Stone. On behalf of the good people of San Jacinto County, I'd like to say, you've put on a hell of a show. But all shows have a finale. The people of Texas accept your challenge for one final contest. Winner take all. Bring all your champions to the main arena for the championship stampede." Tecton heard the challenge. A final contest, a decisive battle in the very ring where his humiliation began. A chance to salvage a shred of honor from his fiasco. To meet the human leader in a final, glorious battle. The bait was obvious, but his pride was too vast to let him refuse. "Forward!" he roared, and marched his remaining army proudly back into the rodeo arena. As they marched, Jab snatched Dale's shortwave from the console. "Cletus, you copy? Time for the light show. Main arena." A burst of static. "You got it, boss. Full wattage," came the reply. Jab switched channels. "Sparky, you got the party favors ready for the pens?" A crackle, a maniacal giggle, and a single clear honk was his only reply. It was enough. The main gates of the arena slammed shut with a deafening clang of steel on steel, trapping the Thalrixi inside. The stadium lights, rigged by Cletus, flared to an intensity 10 times their normal brightness, blinding the aliens with a sudden, searing glare. Then the music started. A sonic assault erupted. Cletus had patched every amplifier on the fairgrounds, from the main stage PA to the speakers on the Ferris wheel, into a single system. What erupted from those speakers was a truly unholy mix of AC/DC's Thunderstruck and Cotton Eye Joe, played simultaneously at a volume that could liquefy internal organs. On the final crashing drumbeat of the intro, a series of small, well-placed charges, courtesy of Sparky, blew the locks off every single gate to every animal pen surrounding the arena, all at once. A tidal wave of terrified, furious livestock poured into the arena. Every bull that hadn't gotten its shot at glory, every bucking bronco, every longhorn steer, and even a few escaped, and deeply vengeful, llamas from the petting zoo. The honorable Thalrixi wedge shattered into a maelstrom of kicking hooves, sharp horns, and pure unthinking animal panic. Cowboys on horseback rode into the chaos, not roping, but firing shotguns into the air, adding to the confusion. BJ's kids zipped between the floundering aliens on dirt bikes, throwing lit firecrackers under their feet like a tiny, chaotic cavalry. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was Texas. In the center of the pandemonium, Tecton was a titan of rage. He roared, swatting bulls aside with his sheer strength, his plasma axe cleaving through anything that got too close. He spotted Jab on the far side of the arena, standing calmly by the announcer's booth. His personal honor demanded he slay the human leader. He charged, a green-skinned juggernaut of hate, shoving a panicked Longhorn aside. He raised his axe for the final, killing blow. He never saw it coming. A monster truck Cletus's prized The Beast flew through the air. It had launched off a jump made from a hastily assembled stack of hay bales. A flaming bull skull, which had been a decoration on a barbecue stand 30 minutes ago, was now welded to its grill. And behind the wheel, a maniacal grin plastered across his grease-painted face, was Sparky. He gave Tecton a final two-fingered salute before bailing out of the cab at the apex of the jump, landing perfectly and improbably in a nearby horse trough filled with water. The truck, driverless and airborne, slammed into the Imperator in a glorious, fiery, Michael Bay-worthy explosion of twisted metal, gasoline, and shattered pride. The invasion was over. The sun set, casting long, dramatic shadows over the smoking wreckage of the San Jacinto County Fairgrounds. As the dust from the final explosion settled, the surviving Thelrixi, fewer than 20 of them, stood frozen, leaderless, their weapons lowered, their belief system in absolute ruins. Subjugator Grawl stepped forward. He surveyed the absolute carnage, the crippled ship, the burning truck, the dazed and scattered livestock. He looked at the exhausted but defiant humans, who were already starting to lean their shotguns against fences and cracked open beers. He made a choice, the only choice left. In a clear, ringing voice, a voice free of pride and filled only with weary pragmatism, he gave the orders Imperator never would. "Stand down! Drop your weapons!" An hour later, the Texans celebrated the only way they knew how. They had dragged out barbecue pits and roasted sausages over the still-burning hull of an alien speeder bike. The air smelled of victory, superheated metal, and mesquite smoke. Jab cracked open a fresh Lone Star, nodded at the burning hulk of the warship on the horizon, and turned to Sparky, who was busy trying to teach a llama how to juggle. "Well," Jab said, his voice the definition of understatement, "I guess the fireworks show came early this year." Sparky just honked his horn in agreement. In the background, Cletus let out a whoop of pure victory. He had successfully jury-rigged a plasma rifle's power cell to his beer fridge. It now glowed with an ominous blue hum and, as he just discovered, could produce a perfectly cryogenically chilled can of beer in 0.8 seconds. Progress. A group of teenagers led by BJ had already spray-painted racing stripes and a crude drawing of Diablo on a captured alien speeder and were arguing over who got to drive it first. The galaxy, whether it knew it or not, had just received a very clear, smoke-scented and slightly sticky message. No one had told the Thelrixi about humans, about their chaos, their stubbornness, their sheer unrefined talent for violence. And now it was far too late.